Is your opponent's character an issue in this race? 90 seconds.
Well, thank you, John. And before I answer that question, I want to thank you for holding this event and obviously WBZ for putting it forth. I want to thank Professor Warren for coming out. I want to thank the viewers and listeners for participating as well. As you know, I'm from Rentham, have been the senator for 2.5 years. That being said, aside from my marriage to Gail of 26 years and the birth of my kids, being your senator has been the greatest honor I've ever had. And I think character is important. As you know, I think what you're referring to is the fact that Professor Warren claimed that she was a Native American, a person of color. And as you can see, she's not. That being said, she checked the box, and she had an opportunity actually to make a decision throughout her career. When she applied to Penn and Harvard, she checked the box claiming she was a Native American. And you know, clearly she's not. That being said, I don't know, and neither do the viewers know, whether in fact she got ahead as a result of that checking of the box. But the only way that we'll be able to find that out is to have her release her personnel records, have Harvard release their personnel records to make sure that she did not have an advantage that others were entitled to. So when you are a United States Senator, you have to pass a test, and that's one of character and honesty and truthfulness. And I believe, and others believe, that she's failed that test.
Mr. Brown, thank you. Ms. Warren, is your opponent's character an issue in the race? 90 seconds.
Well, I was going to say that thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm excited to be here. This is my first time to do anything like this. And Senator Brown, it's good to see you here. I was going to start this by saying that I think that Senator Brown is a nice guy. And that what this race is about the issues, that's what's important. Not when someone says a few good things some of the time, but how someone votes all of the time. Senator Brown wants to raise an issue about my character, then I'll lay it out there. You know, when I was growing up, these are the stories I knew about my heritage. I believed my mother and my father and my aunts and my uncles, and I never asked anybody for any documentation. I don't know any kid who did. But I did know this about my parents, that my mother and dad loved each other very, very much, and they wanted to get married. And my father's family said no, because my mother was part Delaware and part Cherokee. And all of our lives, for my 3 brothers and me, that was a big part of the separation in our families. But, you know, I never used it for getting into college, never used it for getting into law school. And the people who've hired me for my jobs have all made clear they didn't even know about it until long after I was hired. So I think it's out there what the story is. What I really want this race to be about is about the issues, not about my family, but about the families across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts who are very affected by this race.
Thank you. Rebuttal.
Yes, John, thank you. And first of all, I want to, you know, you're a nice woman too. And I know you're a good teacher and a hard worker, but this is about character. This is about something that can be answered very easily, folks. All she needs to do is release her personnel records, and she's refused to do so. And I think that speaks volumes and says, I think, the answer that we all know. This is about issues as well. This race clearly is about issues. And when she referenced that I don't vote all the way that they want me to, yes, I'm not going to be voting with the Democrats 100% of the time or the Republicans. I'm the second most bipartisan senator in the United States Senate, and there's no monopoly on good ideas. There are good Democrat ideas and good Republican ideas, and I'm going to go for the good idea regardless of who's associated with it.
Let's get a response.
So let's just be clear about this. This is my family, this is who I am, and it's not going to change. But it's also clear about how I got hired. Charles Freed, who was selected by Ronald Reagan to be the Solicitor General of the United States, the top lawyer, and who has said in print that he voted for Senator Brown, is the person who headed up the hiring at Harvard. And he said he didn't know about it. Nobody at Harvard knew about it until long after I was hired. The Boston Globe has interviewed more than 24 people who were involved in hiring through the years, and they've all made it clear. The people who hired me have spoken, and they've been clear about it. I didn't get an advantage because of my background. But I will say this. This is about family. I can't and won't change who I am. I am who I am. So if we're going to talk about character, I think that's really an essential part.
Go ahead.
John, if I may.
Briefly, please.
Thank you, Professor. The only way to set this record straight is for you to release your personnel records. That'll say in great detail whether you check the box to get an advantage and take an advantage away from somebody that would have been entitled to it. And you refuse to release your records, and I think that speaks volumes.
You know, Senator Brown, I think that it has been made clear. The people who hired me are the ones who have said whether or not they even knew about my background. There's nothing else there. The question has been asked and answered. I think the senator just doesn't like the answer.
Okay, I think you both had your piece on that. You can always return to things later in the debate if you want to, but we're going to move.